This is a fast-moving story, isn't it? Donald Trump and his tariffs. Let me just give you a recap of where we are at the moment. So obviously, this is where those tariffs were before Donald Trump came into office. Very, high on China comparatively, low on Mexico and Canada. He said there were going to be 25% extra tariffs on Mexico and Canada, and also an extra 10% on China. But then, lo and behold, we all know what happened next. Calls were made, the President of Mexico, Prime Minister of Canada, and they were paused. So they went away. But those 10% are still there, and actually China has retaliated with extra tariffs on the US, although not due to come in next week, which raises a question. Are any of these tariffs actually being paid yet? It's kind of an interesting question, actually. It's worth just delving into. Because if you look at the small print, OK, so this is the executive order from the White House about these Chinese tariffs. We'll zoom down here and have a look at this. It says that basically they take effect on or after 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, February the 4th, 2025. So they should already be in place. But here's the thing. Look a bit further down in the small print and you see this. Goods loaded prior to February the 1st shall not be subject to such additional duty. Now, that matters, OK? Because if you're looking at how goods are actually coming in from China to the US, this is breaking it down by ship and by air. The vast majority actually come in by ship. 70% come in by ship. And obviously it takes time after you're loading stuff for it to actually arrive in the US. How much time? Well, it differs depending on the route you're talking about. But for a route like from Shanghai to LA, well, more or less the minimum, this is basically the fastest you could get across there, the minimum is around about 15 days. OK, so think about it. If you're loading something just after that deadline has passed on the 1st of February, that shipment is only going to be around about there at the moment, and it's going to take quite a long time for it to arrive in LA, possibly the 16th of February, maybe even later. So you see, a lot of these tariffs haven't yet actually been imposed. However, of course, there is that 30% coming in by air, raising the question, what are the kinds of things that have already come in by air? Well, if we break down where those tariffs, where indeed the trade has come from by air in recent years, it's largely things like electronics, nuclear parts. The thing that actually a lot of people have focused on recently, because it's something that the government has been trying to clamp down on, it's clothing and knitwear, fast fashion, basically. But that's a small segment. It's the other bits you might have to be worried about if you're in the US. Electronics, nuclear parts. Technically speaking, tariffs do apply to these things. But for most of the rest of the trade, we've yet to see, and it depends, obviously, on what negotiations happen next.